Harry's wife. They are fucking grifters. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Harry's wife is in the news again. Well, it's rather difficult to find a day when she is not. Being in the news suits her. Largely, it allows her to assert control, although these days she faces repeated threats to that need for control as a consequence of negative reportage of her. It does, naturally, allow her to drink deep of the fuel that is provided by virtue of the repeated news articles, broadcast news, relating to her and, of course, people's responses to that news across social media. What she wants, however, is to be mentioned and praised, to be lauded, to be heralded. All of that is pure positive fuel that doesn't threaten her sense of control. Because she's not a highly provocative narcissist, although, of course, she does provoke people, she isn't the type of narcissist that revels in the vitriol that comes from other people. Some narcissists do. They engage in shithousery because they love the reaction of a crowd getting worked up. They play to that provocation. Watch the video, The Highly Provocative Narcissist, and you'll understand. Harry's wife isn't like that because she operates this facade of being a decent person, a kind and empathic and philanthropic bananitarian. She doesn't want controversy because controversy threatens control. She wants people easy to control, supine, praising her, basically wedging their tongue between her arse cheeks. Unfortunately for her, the tide has very much turned, and more people now recognise what she is in terms of a chancer, an opportunist, a not very nice person. As a consequence of my work, which has been there from a very early stage, more and more people recognise that she is a narcissist, the reasons why, and, just as importantly, what that means with regard to her behaviour. Many still don't understand that, but they do realise that she's a hypocrite, that she contradicts herself, that she isn't a pleasant person, that she's a liar, that she revises history, that she engages in behaviours where she says one thing and then does the other, that she's out to get whatever she can to benefit herself and that she doesn't care about people. This view of her has become prominent over the course of the last few days as a consequence of comments made by Bill Simmons. Reported in Deadline by Dade Hayes, the title states, Prince Harry and Harry's wife called fucking grifters by Spotify executive and podcaster Bill Simmons after their split with company. Now, of course, when I recently reported on the fact that Spotify had said cheerio to the gruesome twosome, and it was stated that they had parted basically with mutual agreement, it was clear that wasn't the case. Once again, Harry's wife thinks people are stupid, that they will accept what the PR agency pumps out on her behalf because she believes herself to be cleverer than everybody else. People see through that. They saw that Spotify had signed up a load of rubbish, that Arsey Wipes was dull as ditch water, and that as a consequence of producing that dross and the fact that nothing else had been done since, everybody recognised, bar the rump of the sugars, that this work was not very good at all, and therefore Spotify will have ditched them, and it wouldn't have been by mutual agreement. That view has proven entirely correct as a consequence of what Bill Simmons has had to say. Bill Simmons, who sold the Ringer to Spotify in 2020 and has risen through the tech company's executive ranks, derided Prince Harry and Harry's wife on his podcast Friday as fucking grifters. Challenge fuel of a negative variety. The Sussexes and Spotify confirmed last Thursday they have parted ways after signing a deal reportedly worth $20 million 3 years ago for their production company Archwell. The pact was part of Spotify's surge in spending on podcasting, a push, including the roughly $200 million Ringer acquisition. More recently, the audio giant has scaled back and laid off staff, consolidating divisions and emphasizing the creator economy instead of big-ticket talent. Though it still has Joe Rogan and a few other notable hosts on its podcast roster. Simmons, who still runs the Ringer and is also head of podcast innovation and monetization at Spotify, made the comments on his eponymous podcast. The fucking Grifters. That's the podcast we should have launched with them, he said. I gotta get drunk one night and tell the story of the Zoom I had with Harry to try and help him with the podcast idea. It's one of my best stories. The comments surfaced on Twitter and were first reported by The Big Lead. Among Archwell's podcasts was Archetypes, which was hosted by Harry's wife. The show explored the societal forces that have impeded the progress of women and welcome guests like Trevor Noah, Mariah Carey, Mindy Kaling and Serena Williams. It did not get a second season renewal, though it could potentially resurface on another platform. This, of course, is something that Harry's wife would definitely want to be the case because she believes that she is talented and doesn't see that people find her output bland and boring. Harry's wife last April signed with WME, with the agency also repping Archwell. Simmons did not hold his tongue about the royal couple, even during the time they were under contract with Spotify. Last January, he blasted Prince Harry, saying it was embarrassing to be affiliated with the same company. Shoot this guy to the sun, Simmons groused, according to the Big Lead post. I'm so tired of this guy. What does he bring to the table? He just whines about shit and keeps giving interviews. Who gives a shit? Who cares about your life? You weren't even the favourite son. You live in fucking Monty Shit Show and you just sell documentaries and podcasts and nobody cares what you have to say about anything unless you talk about the royal family and you just complain about them. This, of course, is bad news for Harry's wife. Not only does it demonstrate that the suggestion that it was an amicable parting of the ways was not actually the case, which demonstrates yet more PR puffery on the part of Harry's wife, but it also demonstrates that someone who is actually involved with them, somebody who knows them, contrary to what the Sugars always yell, you don't know them. Actually, Sugars, plenty of people do, and Mr. Simmons does, because he was in the very organisation that was involved with them and he had direct involvement with them and he views them as fucking grifters, which is what so many other people see them. Of course, the explanation of fucking grifters is apt and it applies to her as a narcissist and him as the victim that shares the awful fantasy that she has zero talent but her narcissism causes her to grift in order to con people, in effect, into giving them work based upon what? The fact that he's a member of the royal family and she married into it. That's it. But they can't even tell that story in an interesting way. Harry's wife is deluded. Some individuals would recognise, look, there's not much about me. I got lucky. I married into the royal family. I've got a story to tell. I'll merch that because I need to make a living. But yeah, I recognise the world's only interested in me because of that, and I will utilise that to my advantage. Who wouldn't? At least that's honest. But Harry's wife can't be honest. Her narcissism will not let her be. Instead, it causes her to believe that she's a fascinating individual, that she's talented, that her story is just part of it, that there's so much more that she has to offer, that the RC Wipes series was groundbreaking and fascinating, and as we know, as I've repeatedly explained, it was just a transparent score-settling exercise by her. Mr. Simmons has spoken out, identifying the true nature of Harry's wife and her captive. It's poor news indeed for Harry's wife, because of course, what it shows is that somebody who actually has dealings with them has identified what they are. It's challenge fuel, but moreover, not just the view or opinion of an individual, but one, as you will find out in forthcoming videos, is that's one that's being picked up by so many other broadcast outlets and news items. And this is the problem for Harry's wife. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. Or perhaps more accurately, you live by the media, you die by the media. You court the media in order to make yourself look fantastic, but you also run the risk that the media will also report on the fact that you're shit-tastic. And that is what's happening for her. Simmons' comments are challenge fuel, but of themselves aren't that problematic. They're problematic because Harry's wife has courted fame as part of a residual benefit. And as part of that fame, it means that many people don't actually like her, particularly many media outlets. And they're looking for any opportunity to publicise the downside of her behaviours. And an individual who has legitimately called them fucking grifters is going to get a heck of a lot of airtime. There are some famous people who have a sort of golden status, that they can engage in nefarious activities, but it's not reported on. Basically, the press tends to give them a pass because they're seen as a national treasure, or that they're seen as well-liked, that they've always been courteous in their dealings with people, that they've never caused a problem with the media, and therefore they're largely left alone. They will have certain skeletons in their cupboard, and the press know about them, but they don't decide to unearth them. There's a strange kind of pact, if you will, between the two. But individuals such as Harry's wife, who is clearly seen as somebody who hasn't got any talent or ability, that has simply made a living out of being the wife of the ginger one, and, of course, has gone to war with the media, well, the problem is that if you try and take hold of the media by its tail, it's going to turn around and bite you. And that's what's happening to Harry's wife, with all the consequences that occur from that. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.